POW. Anurag Kashyap did Yudh. Abhinay Deo has done 24. Anurag Basu has done a Rabindranath Tagore series. Filmmakers are coming in droves to multi-episode storytelling. I just want opening comments from the panel. Why do you think this is happening? Why has television become so important all of a sudden? We can start with Cary.
I don't know worldwide why that might be happening. In the United States, I think there's been probably a dearth of mid-range budgeted dramatic stories, and I feel like television has
started to tell an R-rated story in cinema. So I think a lot of those stories have come to television, and together with their creators, have found that executives are more, open to telling serialized, finite stories on television.
Yeah, I actually believe that TV is the new normal, and therefore a lot of stories which need to play out over a certain length of time, where graphs need to be longer, are only possible on TV. And second, I think television, more than any other medium, remains a writer, director, creative person's medium. Because television audiences are larger, and they're more forgiving, and they give more and more opportunities to get our craft right. Whereas I think the film business, it's becoming more and more about the first day, the first look, and therefore it's gone into perhaps a marketeer's domain. So what's the name of your film, who stars in it, and all of that seems to decide much, much more than what's the story you want to tell. And fundamentally, in our country, television remains about the big reach that TV has. The fact that we can seriously, the number of people watching television in our country is equal to the population of all of Europe. And so I think that's a huge reason that appeals to a lot of storytellers, that here's a really big audience that is going to tune in and be influenced by their craft, and you have the power to get into their drawing rooms every day. And second, it's not a medium that is dominated by having, the name of your show, and by having or not having a star that's going to determine or change anything. So it doesn't matter. In India, we've had really big film stars at the top of a TV show, and they've struggled to sort of get audiences in because the stories have a problem. And we have people who are first-time actors. You mentioned a couple of shows that I had the privilege to work on, and they did really well. Well, there were people who were just good actors, and none of them were stars, and it didn't seem to matter to any of these audiences.
This is not that call.
Yeah, I haven't got it. We've got a stellar star cast in the show. Not like Gaurav said, from Sandhya to Manish to Satyadeep to they are actors. Actors we've got. To be able to work with actors, be able to work with a superb writing team. Why would you not come to television? Why would you not? If this is what we can, if we can allowed to do this, then please let's all migrate to television.
I want to take up all the points. In fact, is television becoming important because film is declining, so to speak? Because look what's happening internationally, even in India. It's either big budget filmmaking that we are seeing everywhere. It's blockbuster cinema that people are going and paying for, or small independent films which have limited releases and then of course come on VOD directly. Mid-budget filmmaking is actually just going away completely. And actually the directors that you see internationally who are actually going to television are these guys who broke out because of their mid-budget films, whether it's a Steven Soderbergh or Cameron Crowe. All of these are actually big names who started in the 80s, late 80s and early 90s with outstanding films, which today may not even see the light of the day because no one's going to be putting money across to them. So is that what's really happening? Are filmmakers actually getting more interested in television because film is not giving rise to their passion projects? It's not suitable anymore for the stuff they really want to do?
Yes. Okay. Not that I wouldn't ever do a comic book movie, but I think my impulse is to write dramas mainly. So Beast of No Nation was a weird sort of hybrid, as you mentioned, because I think a lot of people consider it a television film, even though it was made for and finished to be a theatrical film. Most people experienced it on Netflix or pirated, where Netflix didn't exist. and very few people saw it in the cinema, which is, I think you were kind of also saying in terms of what it matters the first day performance and per screen averages and what's the drop off for the next weekend if it's going to exist any longer in the cinema. So, as a filmmaker, spending years or on a project, you want as many people to see it as possible. So there's also a higher chance that in television you're going to have a far larger audience and a longer reach and a much longer period of time in which they can consume it in the way it's meant to be consumed.
But when you did True Detective, when you were actually taking up the project, you had been a film director, and then you decided to do television. And what typically happens in American television, if people don't know, it's generally a director directing an episode or perhaps 2 or 3 episodes, and there are multiple directors over a season. But you chose to direct an entire season of True Detective together. So what was your actually motivation to come to television in the first place when you had been a film director, who was an awarded film director for that matter?
Someone once told me the money was in television. I was still paying off my student loans. Also, it was what I said about doing Jane Eyre and wanting to be able to spend more time exploring a character and all their nuances and differences. Whereas in a film, tone and the level of character depth is going to be limited by the length of time. And especially tone, you can't really shift it within 2 hours, except for somehow the Koreans can do it. And but otherwise, you're kind of limited to this kind of one note, oftentimes in a film. And I think long format gives you much more room to play. The concept behind True Detective, I don't think was necessarily original, even though, what I mean in terms of one director. Even though some people credit it as that. But, for example, oh God, I can't believe I'm spacing on his name. Tom Hooper did all of John Adam. And I don't think for Twin Peaks there was multiple directors in Twin Peaks, but it was still a David Lynch creation. But there were other series where I think there was one director, and what appealed to me was that I was going to be able to do that and have 8 hours. I think in terms of logistics, networks don't actually prefer that because it takes longer to finish the episodes because you don't have multiple people completing them and getting them out on the air within. I think some shows don't even finish shooting before they're on the air, and you can't do that with one director.
Nikhil, do you want to answer that as well? As a filmmaker, you just mentioned D-Day was actually very difficult for you to do. Having done, having made a forte of making romantic dramas or dramas for that matter, the moment you want to do a thriller, people will say, "Arey, ye to, he's a romantic director. Why should he make a thriller?" So is that one of the reasons why you thought, because this is 22 hours, I read, this is 22 hours of a film that you're doing. That's, 10 films, at least. So why did you decide?
It's 126 episodes. And it's 22 films. If you just divide it from, don't take the films I've made because I've made very long films also, like Salami Ishq. So just taking an average film and do the mathematics, it's like 22 films. And like I was telling somebody today only, that you take a shot on one day and you get a great shot with Sandhya Mridul on day one, and you say, oh my God, I've got 100 days to go. And I've got 100 of these shots, sequences that I need to shoot. So, but I think that what Cary said is very important as somebody who is committed to the project. In the sense, I would not have done POW if I was told only that, you come in and do the first episode and then go out. And I wouldn't do that. Because somewhere or the other, I think that what we as filmmakers are committed to do is we want to see, put our stamp over there. Right now, there's a shot, I don't think Cary saw the pilot, but there's a shot in POW when the car is traveling and there's a helicam shot, and I remember while taking it I kept saying True Detective, True Detective. This is a True Detective shot. So when you see True Detective, you say, oh my God, just those shots of the cars on the bayou, and it's brilliant. That was a huge, which they tried to do in season 2.
Meanwhile, I was thinking No Country for Old Men. No Country for Old Men. No Country for Old Men.
So we want to. I at the end of 126 episodes, this is a commitment that I made to, and we have 3 other very good directors on the show. There are 3 people. 3 people who worked with me for the last 5 to 6 years. They've been there and watching my back. But I told Gaurav this, that at the end of the last shot of 126 episodes, it should be as good as the first shot you took of the first episode. So that's the commitment. That if you want that quality, you can't just just come back and say let somebody else take it. You have to be there.
I've also experienced too. Networks think they could seduce you by saying, "We'll give you a bunch of money to do the pilot." You know, like take from what's this the phrase? Take from Peter to pay Paul. And it's and to me that seemed like such a retarded thing to say to a filmmaker, because like your name's still attached to the whole series. You want the whole thing to look good. You know, why would I just want it for mine? You know?